Welcome Mr. Abdullah Thakur to Pune. Thank you so much coming to the Oxford of the East and the Detroit of the East. What brings you here?
I think Pune has always been an interesting story to explore. The masterclass startup was an event that I thought I should attend. Number one, because of the Pune opportunity, like I said. And number two, because the entrepreneurs here are a little different to any other part of the country. I think their originality and the purity of concepts and ideas is very relevant to what we do in venture capital investments. So that was definitely something interesting. And because I do public speaking and I was asked to motivate the Puneite entrepreneur and aspiring entrepreneur getting into entrepreneurship, so I spent some time on the stage talking to people about it, and also collaborative exercises between international entrepreneurs and local entrepreneurs, and how we can build technology and design together. Yeah.
And while I was talking to the audience, because I was also a speaker, and they said, this gentleman who's come from Kuwait, he has such a good heritage, he talks Hindi, and he's mesmerized everyone. So can you brief something about this crowd was like, give a small background, why this crowd loved you so much?
Well, that's very sweet of them to do that, but I think I'm just a real person. I don't reflect on any books, any so-called peers. I believe everybody's individual story is a story to tell. I believe everybody's individual.
So what's your story, Mr. Abdul?
My story is that I used to fail in 3 or 4 subjects every semester. My story is that my teacher always believed that I would do nothing in life. My story is that my mother always supported me, because that's what mothers do. And when time came and push had to be shoved, I shoved. I hustled in life to make sure that I stabilized myself, gave myself a mission, and actually lived by it.
Interesting. I have a similar story. I failed in my 8th grade, 12th grade, and every time I had to do something, my mother would put the musalla and directly talk to God. Are you doing or not? And God had to do it because you can't refuse. So we have a similar story. But how you got into venture capital? How this after this?
Well, see, I used to work for a Fortune 500 company, British Telecom. I used to head Middle East and Africa. I worked with them for almost 8 years. I managed government-to-government services. I managed content management. I managed consulting. And then I reached a point where I realized that I need to do something that can inspire me every day. And jobs don't do that.
True.
Jobs are so routine that at one point you can predict everything that's going to happen in the whole next week. And me as a personality, my DNA is not that. I'm always somebody who looks for adventure. So I realized that my background in telecoms and technology with BT was good enough for me to use my network and start sourcing deals. And that's where I started looking at deals, because some of the deals that we have invested in, people are amazed how I got them. But it was just my old colleagues in England and some direct network.
So you lived in England for some time?
I've not lived off and on because of work. Having worked for BT, I was required to be in London very frequently. And then most other work that I did for family businesses as an advisor and a consultant in Kuwait was also in England as well.
That's interesting. So how do you see Gulf, India and UK in terms of entrepreneurship and investment and opportunities?
Well, number one, there's a lot to share. So the English have occupied India and the Gulf. So that's common. Okay. Number two, the Gulf and the Indians have always shared culture together. So if you look at the food groups, and if you look at the cuisine, the Arabic cuisine, and if you look at the Indian cuisine, it's very similar. So they call it majboos, we call it biryani. Okay. So they call it marag, and we call it sabzi. So it's very, very common. But those kind of similarities are there, and there's a lot to build on from there, because that gives you a lot of leverage to develop something together.
A lot of Indians work in here, and how they are prospering as an entrepreneur, because you stay there, you come to India.
I think Indians are deserving a very good opportunity. The exposure, number one, to openness and acceptance is there. Kuwait is probably one of the real democracies of the Arab world. at the moment, which it has an elected parliament and elected council, and everybody has decision-making authority. So there's no one person who can call all the rules. There are tenders and there's competitive bids, etc. So the Indian entrepreneurs have the opportunity to prosper over there because Kuwait does give them a very good environment.
Like Dubai gives, there's no, let's say, sponsor. Is there new regulations coming in Kuwait where you don't need a local guy to sign up? Is there free zones coming down?
I just read a report where the ruler of the country, His Highness Sheikh Sabah Jabir Ahmed Sabah, he basically said that foreigners who have stayed more than 30 years in the country will be offered permanent residency and will be given facilities to prosper. So I think these are very good steps by the state of Kuwait towards foreigners and expatriates. Yeah.
Whenever I look, the whole because I live in the GCC, whenever I look, I find the Kuwaitis have been big investors even in Dubai. Like I heard stories when Sheikh Rashid used to call the Kuwaitis to invest.
Yeah, so actually if you look at a picture of Sheikh Zayed Road in 1990, all right, you will just see two towers,
Right.
okay, and a big highway with no real buildings around it. You look at it at 1993, which is 2 years after Kuwait invasion, okay, you will see lots of towers coming up.
Right.
Most of them were investments by Kuwaitis, okay. Because of the fear of being invaded, the Kuwaiti people decided to shift their funds to another neighboring country, and the brotherly relations between United Arab Emirates and Kuwait are historic. So yes, this is number one. Kuwaitis are merchants from a very long era. Okay, so Islamic banking was originally launched in Kuwait. Okay, investment, Islamic investment and conventional investment was also launched in Kuwait. So that's why you will see the first investment bank per se was a bank called Global Investment House in Kuwait. The first Islamic bank was Kuwait Finance House in Kuwait. Kuwait has pioneered in many things. So some of the first charity organizations for the Muslim nation and the poor at large was from Kuwait. So you have the International Islamic Charity Organization. You have the Aman al-Amal al-Awqaf, which is the Kuwait Endowment. You have the Kuwait Red Crescent Society. So you talk about Somalia, Sudan, Bangladesh, anywhere where the Muslims were in need, the Kuwaiti charities were there. And Kuwaitis are known to be very charitable people. In fact, the Emir of Kuwait, the current Emir, has been awarded as the most charitable person in the world. He's received an award from the United Nations for this. So Kuwait has that. Even though it's a small country, it has a lot of things that it has pioneered with. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. Kuwait is actually the third mobile operator in the world.
Wow.
After Verizon, NTT Docomo, and Kuwait. So Zain, which was called MTC those days, was launched in 1983. In the 80s, we had ID cards to identify citizens and foreigners. In the late 70s, we had fingerprint identification for every person. So there's a lot of development that has taken place way early in Kuwait. But Kuwait and Kuwaitis are very humble people. They don't like to talk about it. Yeah. So they kind of stay away from the limelight. And mashallah, I mean, they are quite a progressive nation. They've always been a progressive nation, and inshallah they'll always be a progressive.
Because in Europe, what kind of investment opportunities do you see since the time you interacted with people?
So today I met and had a very good opportunity to, number one, listen to people like him. Yourself, I missed out on. Listen to very good people who have from the land, from Pune. So I got a perspective, number one, that there's a lot of leadership and wisdom in this place. Then when I started talking to entrepreneurs, I realized that their honesty was evident. So when they wanted to raise funds, they were asking for the real amounts. So if they needed 20 lakhs, they were talking about 20 lakhs. They did not hype it up for 2 crores. Which for me as a venture capital investor, an angel investor, this is very good. Number two, Pune as a city has a lot of technical colleges, a lot of business colleges, some of them that are ranked in India and in Asia. That gives me a good pool of talent that can be used. So I'm thinking that if I spend time in Pune mentoring and working with some of these young kids, we might end up having a very good startup that could be the next unicorn. So always it's good to come from the shadows and reach the finish line, which is what Pune is at the moment. It's kind of in the shadows of the entrepreneurship world. But I believe myself and others like you and others come on board and start working with some of these kids. I think we can definitely work on a few interesting businesses to take to the next level.
And how do you see Kuwait in startup era, venture capital era? My final question to you is.
Well, I am representing a Kuwaiti company, so Dow Capital is interested in understanding how we can invest in startups in Kuwait. That is why I'm here. I have already shortlisted a few of them, and I am going to do my due diligence, and we're going to work on how we can take those businesses as part of our portfolio and inshallah develop them into our investments as well. So I think our commitment and intent is there. It's all about how we can do this sooner rather than later. So I think it's just a matter of time. I think 2019 is going to be very exciting, and more or less, inshallah, by the